Hi, it's me, Ingrid of INFP, and this is an update about my life. I finished going to my psychologist. I had 12 sessions with him total. My ISFP psychologist, who's just been the best. He was always so calm throughout everything that I was just telling him, and he acted like a friend, you know? And I know that's, well, it's not really the way that maybe you should be interacting with a psychologist. I don't know. But I will be sad to see him go. But the reason for it, technically, is because I am because the budget at my workplace is just becoming smaller and smaller. And so next year in 2024, we just basically have no money. So my boss is thinking of firing people. And, well, you know, I don't want to be fired. So, you know, I think that it's a compromise. I will not need to, you know, my boss needs me because I'm a doctor and doctors are hard to come by. But I know that some of my nursing colleagues might not be my colleagues anymore by the end of next year. So that's sad. But so I couldn't, because my boss was paying for my therapy, because the psychologist that I was going to was affiliated with my work rather than being in public healthcare. I had to stop going to. Well, my boss never said it, but I am choosing to end the therapy because I don't want to be an extra burden on my workplace's economy, because I do want to keep the nurses working where we work. But it's not just that. It's also that my psychologist feels that it's also a good place to end our contact, because he said that you seem stronger than you've ever did before, and that I don't need to go in therapy anymore if I don't feel that I'm feeling worse or that I need to. So that's positive. I kind of joked on my Instagram that I've graduated from therapy, but obviously therapy is, I mean, you're never self-actualized enough, you know. Maybe you should go to therapy and back and forth throughout your whole life, you know. But anyway, I've gone through 12 sessions with that psychologist, and I've gone to sessions with other psychologists with worse, well, with the 70-year-old psychologist. And also I tried very hard to get contact with another psychologist, but she's not been taking people on her waiting list all this past year. Then there's another psychologist in town. So I've gone through one who I hated, the other one that I cannot come to, and the third is specialized in trauma, and so she doesn't take people who don't have like PTSD. She only does EMDR therapy. So I've gone through all those three. There is one more that is private, so I would need to pay full price, which is a lot of money. So either it's him or it's Mindler, like online, or I do internet CBT with my public health provider, or I have to deal with my public health provider, which is a pain, okay? So I've been to a counselor there, but the only thing that she's been interested in talking to me about is making sure that I get referred to a psychologist for ADHD and autism diagnosis. So it's not been any kind of therapeutic discussions at all. It's just been me describing my life and her saying everything that I said was weird, basically, and that she's going to refer me to somebody who can help me better, according to her. So I had my last meeting with my psychologist yesterday, which was great. He also had some saffron buns for me for St. Lucia, which was a great, it's a great holiday. There's a lot of cinnamon buns and saffron buns and lots of singing and light, and it's beautiful, basically. But he was like, since it's the last time that we'll see each other, like let's liven it up a little bit. So he had some honey with the tea. He always, we have this like ritual thing where he's like asks me if I want some tea, and he knows that I'm going to say yes, and so then I'm like, yes, okay, I'll take some tea. And like he only has Earl Grey, and I just hate Earl Grey. So then I'll be like drinking this tea that I don't really actually like, but it's because I need to get through my therapy session. And then, but so this time he had honey, and we had saffron buns. So that was awesome. And we just like talk, and the more we talked, and so at the end he said, you know what? I don't think that, the more I talk to you, the less I think that you have autism. He said that, well, he's never thought that I've had autism, but I've told him about my dilemma with my public health provider, and he's always said, like, no, you don't have autism. And now he said that, like, he has even less of that the more that he's talked to me. And he's talked to me for 12 sessions, so if each session is a little bit more than 45 minutes, then, he has a pretty good idea of who I am. But what happened is that this morning at 7:30 in the morning, I got called by the psychotherapist. And she was like, yeah, I've talked with this group that takes care of ADHD and autism, and told them, and we've talked about the referral, and they realized that they said no to the referral on bad grounds, and that they are willing to take you in if I write a new referral. Should I write a new referral? And by then, like, today I worked from home. I had a digital class about dermatology. So I'd been planning to wake up at 8:30, since this class started at 9. So I wasn't awake. Like, she woke me up, and so I was like, God, not understanding what she was saying. And so I was like, and she always sounds so aggressive and angry on the phone. And I don't know if it's just the way that she talks, but I get all like worked up. So I was like, you know what? I can't answer that question right now. I have a doctor's appointment. I'm actually finally going to be meeting my doctor, who's a senior doctor, not a resident like me, because I first had to change doctors. That's a whole other thing. So now I'm finally going to meet my doctor on Monday. Like, I got this time booked for me in the mail, and I didn't know what it was about. So I didn't know what it was about, so I was like, okay, I'll go to that. I didn't know what my status was. I hadn't talked to them for more than a month because I've had such a bad experience with my public health care center. And And I said, I'm going to wait until I've talked to my doctor. And she was like, okay, that's sounds good. And I told her I'm finished with my psychologist, and you did promise to give me a psychologist time, or put me on a waiting list if I said I wasn't going to another psychologist. And she was like, yeah, well, we'll see, but I mean, she's basically hoping to get rid of me by sending me over to the ADHD and Autism Center place. And I'll probably say yes to her sending a new referral. But I have my doubts. And the reason I have my doubts is because I've read my journal again, which is a stupid idea. But I read my journal, and there are such blatant inconsistencies and lies about me, which I really should sue these people. Like, in Sweden, you can't really sue people in the way that you can in the US, which is good for me as a doctor, that people can't sue me in the same way. But it is hard being a patient, and basically, and I'm not making this up. I'm not making up what they say about me. What they basically wrote is, first of all, that I'm doing an ST in psychology, which I'm an ST, which is a resident. I'm an ST in general practice. ST in psychology does not exist. And this is a psychologist writing that. So I'm confused, why does she think that this thing exists? In that case, it would be ST in psychiatry. Psychiatrists are doctors, psychologists are not doctors. If the person writing this is a psychologist, then I'm confused as to why she doesn't even get her facts right on that. But might be a typo or whatever. But then she went on, and it is kind of humbling to see yourself be described as like a super dysfunctional person. Like, oh, that I only have one friend and blah blah blah. I don't only have one friend. I have one best friend. But I have other friends, and so there are certain things that I can't really argue with, but that aren't really the reality. And it's like, okay, I can't cook. I'll admit to that. But saying that I eat the same thing all the time, well, I eat similar things a lot because I like my routine, but it's not like I don't eat fruits and vegetables. I do eat fruits and vegetables. I don't know where they got that idea from. Just because I can't cook doesn't mean that I don't eat fruits and vegetables, Like, it's easy to just put some frozen peas into the microwave and eating those. And I can add cheese on top, or ready-made tomato sauce on it. Or I can get my vegetables, I can cook broccoli or whatever. But these assumptions that they make, so that's where I start thinking yeah, maybe I am neurodiverse after all. Because if this is how neurotypical people think, then I'm not a neurotypical person, Or they could just be SJs. And basically, I cannot think in the same way as an SJ does. So what they wrote was pretty insulting. They wrote that I have a low self-insight, or self-awareness, meaning that it's basically a subtle way to say that I refuse to believe that I have ADHD or autism, which basically is a sign of being extremely ill. And I know these things as a doctor. I know what this coded language means. which does not help my anxiety about all this. And then they wrote that I have a low capacity for self-reflection, which is the most laughable, the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. And I mean, that's not to brag, but I self-reflect a lot as an INFP. Like, that's all I do. I self-reflect too much. And I don't know. So, like, either this person is just assuming things from what the psychotherapist has told her about me, or it's a psychotherapist who has just been blatantly selling lies about me to this new psychologist I will be meeting. So either way, it's not good. But I think that maybe by going there and not getting a diagnosis will help me in the future so that I will be actually taken seriously. You know, if I don't get an ADHD or autism diagnosis, I will be taken more seriously. And I'll be proven right. If I am diagnosed with autism or ADHD, then I will also be proven right. So I think that it's actually a good thing for me to go there. It doesn't cost too much money, as much as a private diagnosis would cost. But I think that I need to do this in order to be able to further go in my life and next time I get into burnout, because it will happen at some point in my life, I want to be able to have said that I have done a neuropsychiatric diagnosis, so that psychologists and psychotherapists will take me seriously and that I have gone through the whole process. So I'll say yes probably on Monday, but I mean, reading these kinds of things, you know, by somebody who didn't even really help me in the end. She never gave me the therapy that I needed. And also she was extremely angry for no reason on the phone anytime I talked to her. It's like, how can this person be a counselor, you know? It's like, I don't really understand. Maybe I'm just the one who's interpreting her tone of voice as very angry, but it's just, that's the way that she talks. And I don't feel stable and calm around somebody like that. So anything that is getting me away from her is positive. At the same time, I do want to have continued therapy for the spring. I would like to be put on a waiting list, since the waiting lists are usually 3 months, which would be for the spring. So I'm okay with having a period now without any therapy, as long as I know that, like, if I fall apart, that I'll be able to go to therapy later, you know. But this therapist did not help me at all for my burnout. She just made things worse. And it really, I know that she means well with trying to get me onto the ADHD autism diagnosis path, but it has been more pain than good. So yeah, that is my update. They have written a bunch of terrible stuff about me, and and it's just like, the more I complain, the more crazy I seem. So the less I can talk, and the more like I overthink, and the worse it is. So I I've done a good job of like ignoring this whole thing, but now I've had to like take the reins again. I had to write to my ISFJ friend and kind of ask him what he thinks, and he said, like, you can always say no afterwards, but like take this chance to go and talk about neurodivergence. And my supervisor said the same thing, and my psychologist, I sent him a text saying, you know what, like they wrote to me today, and he said, yeah, like try to reflect on what would you do with such a diagnosis? Would it help you? He doesn't think that I have such a diagnosis, but going through the process would actually help me even if I did not get the diagnosis, because that would mean that I would be certain of that, and I wouldn't need to double think, triple think everything all the time. Because I'm always like, oh, well, maybe I do have autism, maybe I do have ADHD. Strangely enough, I've had to, the nursing assistant's son came to me as a patient. This nursing assistant I always talk about. She thinks that he has ADHD, and he says that he has probably ADHD. And everything that he was saying, I was relating to. And I was like, oh my God, and I told this to his mom then, so the nursing assistant, I said, I relate to everything that your son says. And she said, yeah, well, you probably, both of you have ADHD. And she said she probably has ADHD as well. Because it does go in families. And I recognize a lot of myself in that. We were talking, and I knew what he was going to say. It was a lot about organization, but he has a little bit of more hyperactive kind of things. Well, for me, I did not have that as a child. I wasn't hyperactive. I was more like the inattentive type of person. I would sit in the classroom and I would kind of daydream or pretend to be super alert, but I wasn't. But yeah, so there might be a point to this, but it's a difficult process. I am very happy that I am healthy enough, psychologically, mentally speaking, to be able to go through with this, that I am done with this session of therapy, basically. That my psychologist deemed me good enough to make my own decision over whether I need therapy or not. And he will check up on me in February just to see if I'm doing okay. But then he will let me go. But I am in such a much better place now than before I went in therapy. I'm so much more stable. So I do want to thank all of those people who have helped me through such a tough time. And to you guys who have also helped me, because this channel really has helped me. Some people are confused by that, but I think that people who have a channel understand this. People who have followed me in the comments also probably have seen this. But it really has helped. And weirdly enough, my psychologist is still, I managed to go through 12 sessions without mentioning my YouTube channel once. So I don't know why it never came up, but because it is a big part of my life at this point. But yeah, hope you guys have a great day, and bye for now.